Stetson Bennett grew up going to Georgia Bulldogs football games. He dreamed of playing for them one day. While he was growing up, that just didn't seem to be in the cards though. He had no real FBS scholarships coming out of high school and looked like his dream of being a quarterback for Georgia was all but dead. Instead, Stetson Bennett turned out to have a story that seems like it's straight out of Hollywood and is deserving of its own movie someday. He walked on to Georgia and was the scout team quarterback. After being buried on the depth chart, he transferred to a junior college. He then transferred back to Georgia, where he spent a season as the backup. Then, he lost his starting job, ultimately gaining it back and becoming the first Georgia quarterback in over 40 years to win a national championship. Stetson Bennett's journey is unlike anything we've ever seen in college football. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. If you could take a second and drop a like on this video, I would greatly appreciate it as well. It really helps the algorithm of the video and helps share with more college football fans. Also, you can help out the algorithm by leaving a comment as well. What are your thoughts on Stetson Bennett and his incredible journey? Let me know in the comment section down below. Stetson Bennett is unlike any player we've seen in college football history. For starters, this dude has a flip phone. I mean, it's 2022 and this guy is out here taking calls and sending texts on a flip phone. Not to mention, his nickname is the Mailman because he used to wear a United States Postal Service hat to all the quarterback camps he'd go to. Seriously, this dude is awesome. Alright, let's start at the very beginning though. Stetson Bennett grew up in Georgia and was a die-hard Bulldogs fan. I saw articles saying that he went to around 90 games while growing up, and he remembers going to games all the way back to when he was only 4 years old. So, it's safe to say he was a massive fan. Stetson Bennett's father did everything in his control to make sure that his son had a chance at following his dream to play college football at a big-time program. While his dad's new pharmacy was being built, he leveled an adjoining lot for a football field for his kid. The field was only 80 yards long, and one of the end zones would have been in the middle of a highway if it were the full 100 yards. His dad purchased two 53-foot shipping containers, cut off one side of each, and had them welded together. This hideout was behind his pharmacy, and it's where Stetson Bennett and his Brantley Bandits teammates gathered nearly every day to play football. His father said that he walked the halls of the elementary school and recruited kids to play. It didn't matter how tall they were or how much they weighed, he said that he wanted them to play football. During game weeks, his father would hang banners promoting the game from his pharmacy, and usually there'd be about 100 people that would show up to these games. During Stetson Bennett's 7th grade season in 2010, the Brantley Bandits played a 34-game schedule, including 3 games in one day. They finished that season winning 32 of those 34 games. When he was in 8th grade, Stetson Bennett sat in the Pierce County high school team's quarterback meetings and broke down film with head coach Sean Pender. That same season, after he threw for over 450 yards against the rival school's JV team, the varsity coach told his dad that Stetson Bennett is for real. He's never seen a performance like his son had, and he said his kid could throw it in a mailbox. And that's when the legend of the Mailman was born. A few years later, a Pierce County high school teammate, whose father was mayor of a nearby town, gave Stetson Bennett a U.S. Postal Service hat. They started calling Stetson Bennett the Mailman. Stetson loved the nickname, and it stuck. Bennett clearly loved the hat, as he wore that blue Postal Service hat in an attempt to stand out at 7-on-7 tournaments and college camps. Although he was starting to make a name for himself, no Power 5 scholarship offers were coming in. Sometimes I just didn't really understand it because I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm better than these guys, and I think I'm smarter than them and faster than them. I really didn't know what was going on. I guess you just get used to it and then just say, well, you've just got to show them sometimes. Despite leading Pierce County High School to 3 consecutive state playoff appearances and throwing for 3,700 yards while rushing for 500 yards and scoring 40 total touchdowns as a senior, his only FBS scholarship offer came from Middle Tennessee State. He also had interest from FCS programs such as Mercer, Samford, Harvard, and Princeton, but FBS coaches thought that he was too short and too light. At the time, Bennett wasn't even 6 feet tall and weighed less than 200 pounds. Although Stetson Bennett was a die-hard Georgia fan and both of his parents attended Georgia, there was just no interest from Georgia whatsoever. But that changed when Georgia's signee Richard LeCounte told Bulldogs coach Kirby Smart about Stetson Bennett. LeCounte had played against Stetson Bennett and Davis Mills, who was one of the top quarterback recruits in the entire country. LeCounte said that Davis Mills might be the best quarterback in the entire nation, but he's only the second best quarterback in Class AAA. He said he played against both, and he thought Stetson Bennett was better. Bennett joined the Bulldogs as a preferred walk-on and ran the scout team offense while redshirting in 2017. I just thought the path would be easier and the regret would be less to go here out of high school, try it out, and see what happens. And then I could go somewhere else if it didn't work out, rather than going to a smaller school, balling out, and never having the chance here. I didn't want that regret. Mel Tucker, who was the defensive coordinator at the time, had a lot of praise for the quarterback. Stetson Bennett is a beast, man. He puts a lot of pressure on our defense because he is extremely quick. He's fast and he can throw. He can throw in the pocket and he can throw on the run, and he's very, very competitive. NFL linebacker Lorenzo Carter said Bennett made him and current NFL linebacker Roquan Smith look silly during practices. Lorenzo Carter said that Stetson Bennett is a quick quarterback, saying that he can outrun a lot of people. He's made a lot of linebackers and a lot of defensive backs look silly during practice. Georgia ended up signing one of the top quarterback recruits in the nation in Justin Fields, who would be competing with returning starter Jake Fromm. Stetson Bennett knew that he likely wouldn't be seeing any playing time, as he'd likely be at least the third quarterback on the depth chart, so he opted to transfer, ending his Georgia career. He ended up transferring to Jones College in Ellisville, Mississippi. He led the Bobcats to a 10-2 record, a South Division championship, and the MAC-JC championship game with a Mississippi Bowl win over Eastern Arizona. He threw for just under 2,000 yards with 16 touchdowns while adding 4 touchdowns on the ground. After a solid showing at the JUCO level, Bennett was set to transfer. It looked like he was going to sign with the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns, but he then got a call from Georgia on National Signing Day with an offer to come back on full scholarship. Bennett said he had already made up his mind and Georgia needed a decision immediately, but Bennett resisted. "I'm not going to give you an answer right now because it's a pretty big decision. You can hold that offer in your hand, or I'll just go to the school I've already picked because I was fine this morning. I'm not going to come crawling back on my knees." Stetson Bennett then turned to his parents, asking what he should do. His mother was against his return to Georgia, but his father was in favor. Stetson Bennett grew up dreaming of being a starting quarterback for the Bulldogs, but he wasn't interested in being a backup quarterback and holding a clipboard or signaling plays. "I'm not going to sit here and be a frat kid on the football team. I'm going to go play football." Bennett knew he had an opportunity to compete for the starting job, so he transferred back and was a Bulldog again. He lost the starting quarterback battle to Jake Fromm in 2019, but was the backup quarterback. Overall, he didn't see much work. He appeared in 5 total games, but only threw 27 passes. With Jake Fromm set to enter the NFL draft in 2020, it seemed like it would finally be Bennett's time to be the starting quarterback for the Bulldogs. Only that was put on hold. When Fromm left early for the NFL, the Bulldogs brought in 2 transfers, Jamie Newman from Wake Forest and JT Daniels from USC. Not only did it look like Bennett would be competing for the starting job, it looked like he'd be competing for the backup job as well. Yet again, it seemed like Stetson Bennett would be the odd man out. It was frustrating, but I just kept my head down and kept working and trying to prove them wrong. I wanted to make sure whenever my number was called, I would be ready to go. On September 2nd of 2020, Jamie Newman announced that he'd be opting out of the season because of concerns with COVID. Just like that, it was down to 2 quarterbacks. JT Daniels, who had missed all but 1 game at USC last season because of a knee injury, still wasn't medically cleared to return. All of a sudden, it was down to Stetson Bennett and redshirt freshman DeJuan Mathis, who'd be competing for the starting quarterback job. In the season opener against Arkansas, the Bulldogs opted to go with Mathis, but he looked awful out there. Stetson Bennett came off the bench and threw for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, leading Georgia to a 27-point victory. The following week against number 7 Auburn, Stetson Bennett threw for just under 250 yards with a touchdown as they won by 21 points. Then against number 14 Tennessee, Stetson Bennett threw for 250 yards with 3 touchdowns and picked up the 23-point victory. Stetson Bennett was looking pretty good, and he looked like he had the starting quarterback job locked down. However, he struggled the rest of the season. Against Alabama, he completed 18 of 40 passes while throwing 3 interceptions. Then, the following game against Kentucky, he threw 2 interceptions. The following game against Florida, he completed only 5 passes and threw another interception. JT Daniels was finally healthy enough to return and started the remaining 4 games of the season for the Bulldogs, winning every game. The writing appeared to be on the wall for Stetson Bennett yet again, as the former 5-star quarterback looked primed to take over the starting quarterback job moving forward. JT Daniels was named the starting quarterback to begin the 2021 season. Georgia got the win, but Daniels came out of the game with an oblique injury, which put Stetson Bennett back in the starting lineup against UAB. He responded by throwing 5 touchdown passes on only 12 attempts, but JT Daniels returned for the starting job over the next 2 games. However, he got hurt again against Vanderbilt, and Stetson Bennett was the starting quarterback. The rest is history, as Stetson Bennett started the rest of the season. His numbers weren't earth-shattering by any means, but he was winning games for Georgia. He had them undefeated and in the SEC title game against Alabama. However, Bennett then had his worst game of the season. He threw a career-high 49 times, completing only 60% of his passes. Bennett threw 2 costly interceptions and, honestly, could have thrown a few more. Georgia got blown out, and they were embarrassed. Luckily though, they still had a spot locked up in the college football playoff. Although they were in the playoff as the number 3 seed and they finished the season with only 1 loss, many people were calling for a quarterback switch, myself included. I released a video a few weeks back talking about Georgia not being able to win the championship unless they made a change at quarterback and switched to JT Daniels. In that video, I said that Georgia could probably get by Michigan, but I didn't think that they'd be able to beat Alabama. And I'll just say, I was more than wrong and completely take back everything I said in that video, because Stetson Bennett not only proved me wrong, he proved the entire country wrong. Hell, maybe Stetson Bennett even watched that video, because he proceeded to have the 2 best games of his entire career following that release. So Georgia fans, you could probably actually thank me for winning the national championship. Against Michigan, Stetson Bennett threw for over 300 yards with 3 passing touchdowns. It was the best game of his career, and he looked like a Heisman Trophy quarterback out there. Following that performance, I made a video saying if Stetson Bennett could play like that again, Georgia would easily beat Alabama. Well, fast forward to the national championship, and it took him 3 quarters to look like that quarterback again. But he still proved everyone wrong. Through the first 3 quarters of the national championship against Alabama, Stetson Bennett was playing awful. The offense had no rhythm whatsoever, and Bennett wasn't playing well enough to get Georgia over the hump. People all over Twitter were calling for Kirby Smart to bring in JT Daniels to give the offense some sort of life. Instead, he opted to stick with Stetson Bennett. Early on in the 4th quarter, Stetson Bennett had a disastrous play in which he fumbled the ball and turned it over to Alabama. The Tide scored a touchdown and led by 5 thanks to Bennett's blunder. After Alabama took the lead, I thought it was over. It was at this time in which Bennett shut up the entire world. With 10 minutes remaining, Bennett had the ball with a chance to win Georgia the national championship. On the first play of the drive, he completed a 20-yard pass to Jermaine Burton. Then, he completed a 10-yard pass to Kenny McIntosh. On the following play, Bennett was sacked for 8 yards, and the chatter began to start again. Then, the following play was the greatest throw of Stetson Bennett's entire life. On 2nd and 18, he launched a 40-yard pass to Adonai Mitchell for the touchdown. Just like that, the Bulldogs had the lead. Georgia forced Alabama to punt and had the ball with a 1-point lead with 7 minutes remaining. Georgia drained clock by running the ball all the way down to the 15-yard line. On 3rd and 1, Bennett completed a pass to Brock Bowers, who took it into the end zone. And Georgia had an 8-point lead with 3 minutes remaining. A pick 6 ended up icing the game for Georgia, and Stetson Bennett was seen crying on the Georgia sidelines, knowing that he'd become the first quarterback to lead Georgia to a national championship in over 40 years. Bennett's childhood dream came true. The kid who went to games in Athens, Georgia, and ran around in his backyard with a football tucked under his arm wearing the Georgia jersey just won the national championship as the starting quarterback for his favorite team. Not to mention, he was named the offensive MVP of the game. I've told you all along, and I think some people maybe didn't believe me, and I really don't hear any of that stuff, the social media and whatever. I really don't. Our goal was to do what we did, and we did it. Some stuff that someone said about me on the internet isn't going to change that. Yeah, I think Stetson Bennett was probably directly talking to me with that interview, but hey, it won him the national championship. Stetson Bennett became the first former walk-on to beat a Nick Saban team since 1997. He's the first quarterback who was recruited as a 2-star to win a national title. He's the first quarterback to be ranked outside the top 20 at his position to win a national championship in the past 2 decades. Stetson Bennett proved the entire country wrong, and I'm more than glad that he did. So, what are your thoughts on Stetson Bennett and his incredible journey through college football? Do you think that he'd be the one that would lead Georgia to a national championship? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comment section down below. If you haven't done so yet, there's still time to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you want to join the best college football community here on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you could drop a like on this video as well, I would greatly appreciate it. Seriously, it only takes a second to do and is a ton of fun. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.